Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in the Summer of Taste recipe series. Now this week's dish is a dish that I have to say is probably one of my favourite of all of those that I've been sharing with you over the summer. Not just because of the taste of the actual dish itself, but because of the memories it invokes from the travels that we had in Spain. Now I'm sharing with you today a Catalan pork stew, and it's going to utilise both ribs and sausages in there. So let's have a quick look at our equipment. CADAC Carri Chef 2, tried and tested. It's what we've been using on our travels of late. And then we've got the paella pan on there, another one tried and tested. And the reason I like using the paella pan is because I can brown off all of the meat, set that aside, and then I can start cooking everything else so you don't lose any of those delicious flavours from any of the different ingredients. Speaking of ingredients, let's go and take a quick look at what we've got to go into this dish, and then we'll start our cooking. The first stage of this recipe is to brown the meat off before setting it aside so we can make the actual stew, and then we'll bring the meat back in later. Now I am using sort of breastbone ribs. They've got a lot more meat on than a traditional spare rib, and if you ask your butcher to do that, I'm sure they'll cut those ribs for you so they do have that extra meat on it. So we're just going to pop these in. The meat's had about 4 minutes on each side now, which has really started to sort of seal it off and get a bit of colour on it. So I'm just going to take it out of the pan, and then we're going to make a start with our base for the stew. It's at this point that I would usually start with a bit of chorizo, but having been travelling through Turkey and now we're crossing to Georgia recently, I haven't been able to find any chorizo. So I'm going to make up for that with a little bit of extra sweet smoked paprika. But for now, we're going to start off with the chopped onions and the garlic. Onions and garlic have cooked for about 3 or 4 minutes, started to soften, so it's time to add in some tomato paste. And I'm just going to go in with 2 large tablespoons of that. And then in addition to that, I've got the sweet smoked paprika, which I'm going to do 3 large teaspoons of. Now that the paste and the paprika's had a chance to cook a little bit, I'm just going to add in 650 ml of vegetable stock. The base for the stew's had a couple of minutes just to sort of simmer away, so I'm going to add the meat back in now. Last but not least, we're going to add the chickpeas. I'm just going to put those all over the top. And then once they're in there, I've got another 600 ml of vegetable stock, which I'm just going to pour over the top here. Now the pan is quite full, but we want it that way because I'm going to put the lid on, reduce the heat and let it simmer for about 25 minutes, half an hour, checking on it a couple of times on the way through to make sure it's not getting too dry. And a lot of that liquid will start to reduce down and really pull the flavour back into the ribs and the sausages from that stew. Our stew has been cooking now for about 35 minutes, during which time I've added another 400 ml of water just to stop it drying out, and it's just been bubbling away lovely. Can smell all the flavours coming through, and if you just take a closer look now, it's really starting to look lovely. So that is ready to serve. We're going to turn the heat off on the CADAC, take this over the table and enjoy our dinner.